Hi everyone. I've decided to start making some videos because I'm looking around at what's happening in my country, Australia, and also hearing and observing things that are apparently going on all around the world. This time of our history is very important, and I see a lot of people living in fear. Now, for those who know me, I have a life coaching business, and I have been happy to sit back for the time being in general and not get too involved. I'm not somebody who particularly needs to be heard and all those sort of things, but I do believe that if I'm being affected directly, then I must begin to set healthy boundaries. And if I see others being hurt, even if I'm not being affected, then it is my responsibility to intervene in the protection of those people. Otherwise, we have a system like Nazi Germany, where people out of fear just stood back and allowed such horrific things to happen. And time again through history, this is exactly what's been the case. So this time in history, and I speak predominantly to my fellow Australians, we need people of courage. During wartime, it's people of courage who step up. This is a different kind of war that's going on. Most people have a realization that there's something happening. War has moved on. Those that were not aware how war operates, when one side advances in their tactics, the other one loses. In time, war has gone from the fields and wound up in amongst the houses and so on, in amongst the people more and more. Now the wars are in our homes. It's one group of people with certain sets of beliefs fighting against other groups of people with other sets of beliefs. The beliefs may both be wrong. One could be right, one could be wrong, both could be wrong. It's kind of getting to a point it's irrelevant because we're actually missing where the real enemy is. And I say enemy meaning the people or the group, the organization that is actually orchestrating the harm on people. Okay, so it's an organization using people. All right, so whether it's a government that rounds up its people and sends an army to another country and hurts those people, in the sense that we understand warfare, to what's going on now in this style of warfare that's being fought in numerous ways: financial wars, computer wars, etc., etc. But it's still breaking out onto the streets in the form of people being physically hurt, emotionally, etc., placed in feelings of oppression and fear, etc., and even deaths, as we've seen in numerous ways. So what we have to grasp is that it's the people at the end of the day who are responsible for what's happening. If you're a police officer and you're hurting people, then you're still a person accountable. If you're a judge and you're not being honest in your rulings, out of fear of losing your job or whatever it might be, you are still accountable. Okay? What I'm seeing is accountability being removed. I recently saw a policeman explain he'd been instructed to hide his badge name and number. Well, that's just like the military deciding to go into another country fully knowing they're breaking the laws that govern war. If you can grasp the fact there's rules to war, that's craziness. There should only be one rule: no war. We don't have war for any reason. We find ways to talk it out. But no, they don't want war to stop, so they make silly rules to allow themselves to have war that they don't even obey. Okay, but accountability is the key. So what we're seeing more and more is the government allowing the people who are being used by the government to hide their accountability. So as I said, when they send soldiers into the other country, you see in the movies, they pull their badge off and all that. They get rid of anything that would show where they belong to and all that sort of stuff. So there's a tremendous danger. And it begins to show which side is prepared to do the devious things, the dishonest and unlawful things. Okay? Right, so let me explain briefly what's happening. The avenue of everything that's breaking out, whether it's got to do with Black Lives Matters, it's got to do with people's sexual preferences, whether it's even got to do with abortion, all these things. The real situation isn't the fact of whether it's right or wrong. The real situation is, as one person who is accountable to another person that you're hurting in any way, shape or form. It's regardless of the reason. When you hurt another person, you're committing a crime of various sorts. If it's only in speech, you might be hurting their feelings and so on. You haven't literally broken the major laws we'd understand, okay? In order to commit a crime, there must be a victim. So a lot of the laws the government's trying to tell us, like parking fines and things, they're not actual laws, all right? Under the correct high laws of the common law. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I need you to understand that to have actually committed a crime, there must be a victim, a literal living being that has been hurt. So whether it's be physically, whether it was emotionally, whether it was financially, etc. Okay? You stole off them, you hurt them. Now, what's happening in this situation with COVID virus? We have government bodies like Dan Andrews in Victoria who are just coming up with their ideas of what they believe should be done and instructing that the police enforce them when they haven't even been made law. To the best of my knowledge at this stage, they still haven't even been passed through the basic legal process in order to create laws, yet they're demanding they be enforced on the people. Now, if they have, and I'm not aware, I apologise for that, but that being said, it still doesn't take away from the fact that the highest law of the land under common law states very clearly that if anything is, if any government is trying to pass a law or legislation or anything like that, that is not in line with the highest law of the land, the common law, then it is null and void and ceases to have ever existed. So that means it's as though they never opened their mouth. They never tried to state that it was a law or regulation or anything. And it doesn't matter if they wrote it on paper, it's as though it never even existed. And a lot of people don't understand this. Okay, now it's spilling out into the streets. So the government is, with fear tactics, mind you. So notice, if it's law, it doesn't need to be enforced with fear. But they're trying to enforce their versions of law with fear at the cost of companies. They're demanding that companies demand the employees to enforce the law. So now they're making employees into police of sorts, okay? At the fear of them losing their jobs, and the reason the company's willing to enforce it, abusively force it on their employees, is because they're afraid they're going to be shut down. Okay? So here we have a fear-based system that's illegal. Okay? So it's our governments that are trying to usurp the people. Now, the common law clearly states there's no reason, no means none, no reason that the laws are to be broken. Okay? So for health reasons, you're scared for your life or whatever, there is no reason we are allowed to become a criminal, meaning hurting other people. So fines are hurting other people, and restricting or taking away people's legal rights is hurting people. So therefore it's law breaking, which makes that person or that entity a criminal. Companies are not a literal person. Okay? And governments are not a literal person. There is no Mr. Government or Mrs. Government that can be held personally accountable. It is an imaginary thing created in the minds of people that uses people that are willing to step into certain roles within the government to implement things into our natural environment. Okay? Now, to grasp how the common law works, our forefathers who wrote the law, after they wrestled the power back off the kings and queens of the time, okay, lawfully put the king at the time into a position where he acknowledged that the power was always meant to be with the people. And the Magna Carta is assigning a legal contract between the people and the king at the time, okay? From there, the common law was written. And the common law was never for the people. This is what most people have no idea of. The laws were never made for the people. The people were free, okay, under God. The common law states that God is the creator, and therefore all law comes from God. And the people are the created. The created cannot and are never allowed to usurp the creator. Okay. Now, whether we believe in God is irrelevant. I've come to realize it's irrelevant. It was written into our law, and the beauty is that the people who wrote it in, who did believe in God, have empowered the people in such a way, because the law is written that way, has empowered the people to not be abused by the government because of the structure. So whether I was to believe in God or not is irrelevant. I can be grateful that they did. From what I understand in the laws. Okay, now the people were made in his image. We understand if we go and read a Bible, and therefore they were created. They were created to be creative themselves. So naturally, we went and created. We created a government. We've created numerous things. We created cars and planes, etc., etc. But in this form, we created a government. So we created something out of our imagination, and we empowered it to operate by people stepping into the positions. Okay? So let's use an example of Power Rangers. So they built a robot, and then a Power Ranger jumps into one into an arm, one into a leg, etc., etc., and the robot can function when each of them work together. Okay? So that we have governments that have been created out of nothing and operate because people jump into the positions. Right? Now they are public servants, notice. They're called public servants. Now, the created thing is never to rule over the creator of that thing by law. Okay? So now it requires people of maturity, in theory, to step into the public servant roles. They have to understand that they're a living being like everybody else, and therefore their value is exactly the same. However, they choose, in theory, to give that up to step into a servant role, a position that is required to be held accountable. That's why they are supposed to be giving their names and so on, their badge number if they're a police officer, okay, so they can be personally held to account, so that the government at no stage through a single person can become corrupt. That would be a bit like if each person in the government was like a cell in a body. Every time a cell becomes unwell, it begins to negatively affect the body's health. And eventually, if it's a cancerous cell, it will potentially spread to other cells until the entire body is in danger of death. Okay? If the government has a single person in it that is allowed to be corrupt and potentially affect others to also become corrupt, we have a government that turns sick and corrupt to the point that it can and will eventually bring about the death of people, which we've seen with the likes of George Floyd and so on. Okay, so from there, we understand the government then was empowered to create itself entities. So a company is a type of entity, corporations, etc. And they also created something called an entity, which is actually the name they address when you sent out a fine and things like that. Okay, it's not actually you. We've been led to believe it's us. So if they send a fine to that entity, you think you have to pay it. Now that's getting a little bit deeper, but I'm trying to help you begin to grasp things that you're not aware exist. Okay. So what we have in this situation is a government that is using people right down to employees to take away your freedoms, all in the name of your health and your safety and so on. But they're not only are they breaking laws, they are using fear to cause other people who would normally stand by to also begin to break laws. Okay? So, for example, you walk into a shop and you ask for a coffee and you want to sit down to drink your coffee. You're handed a form that's asking to take your name and phone number, or perhaps it's name and address or something like that. That is a breach of your lawful freedoms of privacy. Now, if they were to pass a law of their own saying that employees have to enter your bedroom while you're getting changed, are you going to stand for that? Now, you'd say, oh, it's not the same thing. They already have my name and so on, so it really doesn't matter. Well, my question would be, at what point is crime allowed to begin? How much crime do we allow anybody to perform before we stand up and hold them to account? How many lies does it take to make a liar? Oh, but it's only a white lie. Oh, well, that doesn't matter then. Like no white lies ever led on to more lying, which eventually leads to, covering up on a bigger scale until eventually somebody has potentially been killed. No? Well, yes, on numerous occasions. And the same thing happens when you allow the government to breach any of your lawful freedoms. They've been put there for a reason, to protect people. Now, if you willfully give it up, if you choose to give it up, all power to you. Okay? I have no problem with you or anybody else choosing to give up their power. I would feel sorry for you when eventually you give it up to a point that when you try and stand up to take it back, you've given so much that there's no chance for you to take it back without somebody like myself or others who understand what's going on stepping in for you to then try and defend you at that level. But, okay, I understand you don't know enough to realise how important it is to stand up in the early stage rather than when it's all too late. Okay, that's why I'm popping this out here now. Because not only is it affecting me, it's affecting people around me, and I refuse to be one of the people during the time, like in the time of Nazi Germany, that stood by and allowed others to be abused, thrown out of their houses and all those sort of things. We haven't quite got to that point, but it's starting to get there. In China it has. The dark-skinned people over there were thrown out of their houses, for those that know. So don't think that just because it's in China it's not going to happen here. I can guarantee the time will come if we don't stand up. We're not responsible for the rest of the world first and foremost. I'm in Australia, and if you're in America or you're in England or wherever it is, if it's gotten that far, you're responsible for your actions first, if you understand it, from a maturity level. Must take ownership of your life first. Then you're naturally going to begin to take care of your wife and children if you're in a position to do so. And if they fight you and so on, there's nothing you can do about it. You can only do your best to try and help them. Okay? From there, friends and family, etc., neighbours, then it begins to spread out into your state, into your country, and then the rest of the world. Okay? So understand that you're only responsible for things you can actually make a difference in. Immediately do something. You see somebody hungry there or cold, and you're in a position to buy them food or give them a blanket, and you walk past, you're responsible. It's as simple as that. And if you have it and you can afford to do so genuinely, and you meet that need, you have changed the world, at least in one person's life. Okay, so let's not let ourselves off the hook. It's time in history that we begin to take accountability and own up to the mistakes we've made. Now, they've been made, so there's no point beating ourselves up over it. But there is a point to rectifying where we've gone wrong. Now, if I owned a dog and I let it run all over the place, misbehaving, wrecking things, and biting other people and destroying their property, etc., and I didn't take responsibility of my dog and bring it to heel, put it on a chain if need be, a choker chain, and make sure that thing cannot get out of my control, then I would personally be held responsible. And we understand that, and I'd be surprised if anybody disagreed that that's the way it should be. Okay? If we created a government and we've allowed it to get out of control and run around doing whatever it pleases, breaking the laws that it's demanding we obey, it expects that we obey them. They're even creating laws that aren't laws that they expect us to obey. Okay? But we created the government. The government didn't create us. So we're the masters and they are the servant, or they're our, I won't go so far as saying they're our dog, because there'll be people in the public servant roles who'll take offence. But in the gist of what I'm trying to say, I hope you have the maturity to grasp what I'm meaning, okay? It's our responsibility. We, the people. And if you look into the legislations, it actually states it clearly, that if any time the government gets out of the guidelines that it's been placed under, that was the point of the laws. The laws were never made to rule the people. It was the laws were made under common law by the people, or those representing the people at the time, that the people agreed with what they wrote, to make sure the government, the people within the government who are supposed to be serving, didn't attempt to usurp the people and become dictators and lord it over the people, and therefore harm the people by robbing them through fines and demanding and taking away their freedoms, etc. Let's try not to get too deep. Okay, so now the reason I'm bringing this up, and I know this is my first video in this. Okay, I know it's a little bit all over the place. There's so much detail. I don't know how to put 45 years of my life's experiences and learnings and so on into what is now 20 minutes, okay? This isn't to try and convince you to change your minds on things, all right? I'm going to get on with my life just fine. I will set my healthy boundaries with the people around me, and I am setting my boundaries with the government as we speak, in different ways, and will continue to do so, both for myself and my family, and for my friends, and ultimately for you. If you don't understand it and can't do it, I can't blame you for that. If you do understand and won't do it, different story. But I can understand if you don't have the courage yet, then you need people who do to stand up on your behalf and begin to cut a path so it's easier for you when you're ready and able. Okay. So all I'm asking is that when myself and people like myself begin to do it on your behalf, please don't get in the way and fight us as well. It's going to be a hard enough job dealing with people within the government who are stand to lose something, stand to be held to account and go to jail and all those sort of things. It's going to be hard enough dealing with them. Please don't get in the way through ignorance and be their shield. That's what they're attempting to use you for. They want you as the shield. You are the first line of defense for them. Okay? Yeah, please just stand by and watch it unfold. You can call us foolish or whatever you like until you begin to see what we're actually doing, what we're about, and the changes that get made in everybody's best interest, including the people in the government. Okay? When it's a fair system. I mean, let's use the police and what's going on with the police for the moment as an example. I believe in our heart of hearts, everybody, even the hardened criminal in their heart of hearts, actually wants to honour and respect the policeman or policewoman who actually does their job honestly, fairly, lawfully, maturely. We really do want to respect the people in those positions, and rightfully so. They're a person who didn't have to choose to take the role. We didn't make them get in there, by the way. They chose. Their free will, they chose to get in there, and they're being rewarded quite well for it with their wages and so on, although I do believe the police deserve a heck of a lot more for what they're going through. Okay, but when they choose to go in and then they start abusing their role, no, not okay, not cool, guys. Okay, and judges and politicians, etc., especially the higher the position, the supposed higher the position. It actually is meant to be lower in the sense of you go underneath the people, you go underneath, if you're the politician, you're under the police, you're under the judges, you're under all of that in an effort to hold all of us up, in theory. Now that requires a lot of maturity, a lot of honesty and integrity, etc., to do it correctly. So therefore, if you are doing that, we rightfully you rightfully deserve our honour and respect. However, if you're not doing it that way, honor and respect, etc., can never be taken. You can't demand that we give it. If you're a judge and you're demanding that people call you your honor and all that sort of stuff, it's a title that's been given as a fear tactic in a sense. People will naturally want to honor you and call you those titles when you have revealed your ability to be honorable. Okay? And until then, don't be surprised when it's not given to you. Okay? That's the beauty of it. It's designed to give us the avenue to walk into maturity. You know, we would want it so that title's placed on us and we don't have to put it there. It's put on us for us. Okay? I digress a little, but it all ties together. And so much to be said in such a short video. I know most people won't listen this far. They'll have tuned out, except for those that are already awakening, those that are grasping and looking for answers and so on. So I applaud you if you've gotten this far, okay? I intend to make smaller, shorter videos, a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, to grab the other people's attention and you know, that are sort of awakening up and then move on, point them to videos like this one. But I'm a big believer that if you're going to start in something, there's no easy way to do it. You've just got to start. So I didn't bother to do my hair. I've been thinking of doing these videos for a while. I haven't shaved, but I've been putting it off for different reasons until finally I realized there is no more time to put it off. I'll just do my best, and it is what it is. Here I am. Raw is, I honestly believe the rawer you are, the more people can relate. They can see themselves and go, wow, if it's just another individual, you know, he's no great position, no this, no that. He's just like me. If he can do it or she can do it, then perhaps I could too. And that's part of the power of why I'm doing this in such a simple form. No great eloquent speech at this stage. I haven't put notes together. I haven't. They're just thoughts that I've been having and things that I've been chatting with people and so on. I would normally have a whiteboard when I talk to groups and so on and give illustrations and things like that to do it on a more professional level. But that's for people who are already there. They're paying me at that stage to sit there and listen to what I have to say. I've already earned the right to speak into their existence. This one is more for encouraging people to begin to recognise the importance of standing up. Okay, so more to come in the future. This is just the beginning. Just popping this one out there. You'll find it on a website at a later stage, and other avenues that can be directed to in time. This is just a random one out there. So for everybody who's listening still, I encourage you, continue to be the best version of you. We know in our heart of hearts that this is not the system we're meant to be living under. So, and it's not going to change by waiting for others to do it. It may change because of others, but we had a part we were meant to play. It's only going to be fear that stops us, or laziness. So it's going to require courage, people of true value. You know, at the end of the day, if we don't step up into it, then we don't have a right to say, oh, well, you know, the world's a better place because of us. We would have to say the world's a better place because of everybody else, because I was too lazy or too cowardice to take my place at this time in history. Yeah, so, all right, guys, I wish you all well. Keep becoming informed. It's people who are informed correctly. It's not about waiting till you 100% know everything. It never works that way. Even military decisions are never made waiting on 100%. It's too late by the time you get 100%. They make decisions anywhere from 50 to 80% if they're lucky. And as things are moving faster and faster, successful people get better and better at making the best educated decision they can. So they work hard at trying to get information, but at a certain point they realise this is the best it's going to get, otherwise it'll be too late and I'll have to go back to the drawing board. So, yeah, keep being courageous, keep informing yourselves, keeping encouraging people, not abusing people. Don't try and force any of your beliefs down their throats. The best way to show people the truth is by walking in it, by the actions you do, not just the talking, by the actions you do that reveal that you actually believe what it is you say. It's in the doing that shows them that you actually believe it. So take care for now, more to come. Keep remembering, we're all amazing. We have to know our true value before we have the courage and so on to step into the challenges that are actually being given to us. When you understand it, as difficult as it might seem, we grow out of our difficult times more so than our good times. Good times are great, but it's our difficult times that causes us to dig deep. So we've been given a gift in disguise, if you can grasp it. All of this nonsense that's going on around us is a universal opportunity. The universe is providing us the opportunity to band together, to grow up, to unite as a family with everybody across the world, regardless of our belief systems and everything. I can still respect you even if what you believe in and what you do is the worst thing in the world. I can, and is rightfully so, respect you lawfully and give you the space to learn that what you think at the moment is right may not be right, and that there's always better ways. So right and wrong's not the answer. There's things that are going on, and then there's better ways of doing those same things. So it's always about going higher and to a greater level of maturity, and then those things that might be wrong will begin to drop off. So take care, guys. Talk again soon.